Your job is to work, my father said, while your sister enjoys life. So I left, and I took my paycheck with me. Have you ever felt like the responsible one in your family, while someone else was always the golden child? Share your story in the comments. Hit the like button and subscribe to see what happens next. My name is Alara Voss. I am 31 years old, and I work as an interior designer in Santa Fe. That means I help make homes, hotels, and offices look beautiful and comfortable. I love my job, but sometimes it can be very hard. Last Thanksgiving, I walked into my parents' dining room. I had just worked 70 hours in 1 week. That is almost 3 full weeks of work in just 7 days. I also had 3 big hotel projects on my desk, and our family art store was losing money. I was tired, my feet hurt, and my brain felt like it was full of puzzle pieces that wouldn't fit. Dad didn't even look up when I walked in. You missed the acrylic paint update, he said, as if I hadn't done anything important all week. Then my sister Leora came in. She looked happy and glowing because she had just been to a fancy spa that cost $3,000. Mom and Dad had given it to her as a gift. Dad smiled at her and said, "How is the facial princess?" I snapped. "So I work hard while she has fun." Dad looked at me seriously. "Your job is to work while your sister enjoys life. Simple as that. If you don't like it, there's the door." I pushed my chair back. "Fine. I'll leave and you can pay your own bills." Simple as that. That Thanksgiving moment was not the start of my problems. The real trouble started a long time ago, when I was a little girl. I grew up in Santa Fe, in a dusty area filled with art galleries and small stores. Our family had an art supply store. From the very beginning, it was clear that Mom and Dad liked Leora more. Leora is my younger sister. She is talented and creative, but the difference between the way they treated us was huge. When I was 11 years old, I joined a kids' design contest. It was run by the state's architecture organization for children. I drew a plan for a community art center using recycled materials. I worked really hard. My entry won. My design was displayed in the state capitol building for a whole month. I was so excited. I ran home with the certificate in my hands, hoping for a family photo or at least a hug. But Dad skimmed it quickly and said, "Good. Now finish restocking the watercolor pads before dinner." 3 months later, Leora made a finger paint sunset in art class. She was about 6 or 7 at the time. The teacher sent it to Mom, who framed it and hung copies in both of our store locations. That night, we went out for enchiladas at our favorite Mexican restaurant. Leora got a new iPad with drawing apps. I got extra chores for being too excited and distracting the store staff. Chores became my life. By the time I was 12, I was helping in the store before school, scrubbing dried paint from pallets after dinner, and hauling heavy trash bags to the alley dumpster. Dad's reasoning never changed. Leora is busy with her art. You do the work. I learned to do jobs no child should have to do. I climbed ladders to touch up the outside mural of the store. I carried big boxes of canvases and paint. I cleaned floors and shelves. Meanwhile, Leora's work was just drawing on scrap paper. Mom and Dad celebrated every little thing she did. Customers bought 3 postcards at a time of her drawings. I watched my own sketches gather dust in a drawer. Even our bedrooms showed the difference. Dad turned an old storage shed into my room. It was small, dark, and bare, with cracked concrete shelves for my old sketchbooks. Leora got the upstairs corner room with a big arched window looking over cottonwood trees. Mom installed a drafting table, track lights, and a lock to protect her art supplies. I got a futon and a milk crate for a nightstand. Weekends were even worse. At 14, I ran the weekend cashier shift alone. I counted change, wrapped fragile brushes, and answered endless questions about oil versus watercolor. Tips went straight into a jar labeled college. Dad praised me in front of customers. Leora got $100 for new markers, which dried out in a week. The pattern became stronger with time. I organized the annual sidewalk sale, designed window displays that doubled customer traffic, and taught myself inventory software on a second-hand laptop. Leora floated in occasionally, rearranging a shelf for inspiration, then vanished to sketch at the plaza. Relatives noticed. Maris Wren once muttered, "That girl's got 2 left feet and a silver spoon." Mom quickly shushed her. By high school, the back room of the store became my second home. I redesigned the layout to fit more easels, negotiated bulk discounts with suppliers, and created a loyalty program that boosted repeat customers by 30%. Dad called it good practice. Leora's report cards had C's in math, but her charcoal portraits won blue ribbons at the state fair. Each win meant another family outing, green chili cheeseburgers, bowling, whatever she wanted. I learned early. My value came from what I produced, hers from what she dreamed. The jar of tips grew heavier, but so did the weight on my shoulders. I juggled 2 part-time jobs around a full high school schedule to save money for college. Afternoons meant catering private events in the foothills, balancing trays of hors d'oeuvres while reviewing floor plans on my phone during breaks. Evenings brought delivery runs for the store 3 nights a week, navigating Santa Fe's narrow streets with boxes of spray paint and gesso rattling in the trunk. Every dollar earned went toward application fees, portfolio prints, and the growing stack of acceptance letters I hoped would change everything. Meanwhile, Leora coasted through school with minimal effort. Her junior year, Mom and Dad announced a surprise: a full year studying painting in Florence, Italy. All expenses covered, plus a shiny red Vespa for getting around the cobblestone streets. They framed it as essential for her artistic growth. I counted the cost in my head: tuition, housing, flight, scooter, insurance. My SCAD deposit required another summer of double shifts. Then came the pop-up gallery. Leora returned from Europe buzzing with ideas for a temporary exhibition downtown. Dad saw potential where I saw risk. They remortgaged the house to secure a 6-month lease on a prime Canyon Road spot with custom lighting and imported display cases. Opening night drew crowds sipping wine and praising Leora's abstract oils. Sales trickled in at first, then stopped entirely. Suppliers demanded payment for frames and stretchers. After 6 months, the doors closed with $20,000 in losses. Dad shrugged. I discovered the paperwork while organizing files for tax season. The new monthly payment jumped $800. Mom explained it was needed to give Leora a real shot. My student loans loomed at $30,000, interest growing faster than I could pay. Still, I wired $1,800 home each month from my freelance jobs, helping cover the mortgage and chipping away at my own debt. College acceptances arrived. SCAD offered a partial scholarship, but the gap remained massive. I worked graduation weekend, serving cake at a friend's party instead of attending mine. Dad sent a text: "Proud of you for being responsible." Leora posted photos from a post-graduation trip with paintbrush emojis. At SCAD, I lived in a tiny dorm, sketching until dawn and interning for experience. Leora enrolled in community college back home, dropping most classes after the first withdrawal deadline. Mom called it exploring options. The store's profits dipped as online competitors undercut prices, but Dad kept funneling money into Leora's projects, like hand-painted scarves that never sold. My senior thesis earned top honors: a sustainable gallery redesign using reclaimed materials from abandoned adobe buildings. Professors connected me with Atlanta firms. I graduated with honors, $45,000 in total debt, and a job offer starting at $52,000 a year. Leora celebrated my commencement by announcing her engagement. Mom immediately offered to host the party at the store after hours. I designed the invitation suite for free, sourcing paper from our overstock. The ceremony cost $15,000, charged to the business account I helped balance. Fast forward to last Thanksgiving. The resentment had hardened into something explosive. I had pulled an all-nighter redesigning the main showroom for the holiday rush. New modular displays for premium oil sets, LED strips highlighting limited edition pastels, and traffic flow that could handle Black Friday crowds without bottlenecks. On top of that, I finalized 3 hotel renderings for a client in Albuquerque. Lobby concepts blending southwestern textiles with modern minimalism. Each revision emailed at 2:30 in the morning. By the time I showered and drove to my parents' house, exhaustion sat heavy behind my eyes. The turkey smelled promising, but Dad met me at the door carrying a platter of deviled eggs. "You're late," he said. "The new acrylic paint shipment came to the store yesterday." I walked in early in the morning, expecting the usual excitement of seeing all the fresh colors and shiny paint tubes. But the computer didn't show the update yet. The list of what we had, the inventory, was still missing. Dad was standing by the desk, tapping his finger against the counter, his voice sharp like it always was when the store took all his attention. "The new shipment's in, but still no inventory update?" he asked, sounding impatient. I wanted to answer back, but I held my tongue. Sometimes it was better not to fight when Dad was already frustrated. I decided to leave the store and go to the dining room where Mom had been setting the table for the family dinner. She had put cranberry sauce in crystal bowls, each one sparkling under the light. Everything looked perfect, like a picture in a magazine. Leora, my older sister, arrived late like she always did. She swept into the kitchen wearing a long camel-colored coat that looked very fancy. It was obvious from the moment she walked in that it was expensive. She had a glossy shopping bag in her hand. She set it down on the counter and pulled out a Hermes Kelly bag made of pure white leather. "Look what Mom and Dad got me after my spa weekend in Sedona," she announced proudly, holding it up like it was a trophy she had won. I knew all about the spa trip. It cost $3,000. That's a lot of money. She had massages, facials, yoga classes, and a view of the beautiful Red Rocks. All of it was charged to the family credit card as a birthday present from Mom and Dad. Mom smiled, full of pride. "Your sister needed a proper reward after finishing that big influencer deal," Mom said. But I knew what Leora's big deal really was. It was a sponsored post for a tiny local crystal shop. It barely covered the cost of her gas to drive there. I put down the green bean casserole I was carrying and felt my anger rising. I tried to keep my voice steady, even though my head felt like it might explode. "Let me get this straight," I said, trying to sound calm. "I redesign the whole showroom, I deal with suppliers when shipments are late, and I close six-figure hotel contracts. And Leora gets a luxury bag and a spa weekend just for posting pictures?" Dad slammed his fork down onto the table so hard that it made a loud noise. "Your job is to work while your sister enjoys life. Simple as that. If you don't like it, there's the door." The room went completely quiet. Mom's hand froze halfway to the gravy boat. Leora smirked behind her wine glass, like she was winning some secret game. I felt something inside me break, a snapping feeling, and I couldn't hold back any longer. "Does that happen?" I asked, standing up and pushing my chair back. It scraped against the floor, echoing through the big adobe walls. "I'm taking it," I said, grabbing my keys from the hook by the fridge. That hook was where Leora's old childhood artwork still hung, laminated in plastic. Mom's voice broke. "Elara, honey, sit down. We're grateful." "Really?" Tears filled my eyes, but they didn't feel real. They felt like the fake tears Mom used when Leora missed curfew. Leora rolled her eyes and muttered something about drama queens. Dad looked angry, his face red. "After everything we've done for you." His words followed me down the hallway, but I was already at the front door. My boots crunched on the pine needles from the porch wreath. The cold November air hit my face as I slid into the car, my hands gripping the wheel tightly. I turned the engine over. The roar drowned out Mom's last pleading words. I drove 20 minutes to Kieran Hale's apartment on the south side of town. My hands held the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. Kieran, my boyfriend of 2 years, opened the door in sweatpants, looking calm but worried. He didn't ask any questions. He just pulled me inside, handed me a warm mug of chamomile tea, and let the quiet sit around us until I was ready to speak. Back at home, the turkey was getting cold on the dining table. I didn't look back. 2 days later, the consequences of leaving started to appear. I woke up to an email from the bank. It was from the loan servicing department and said that if the past due mortgage payments weren't paid in 30 days, the bank could take the house. The email had a PDF attachment showing 3 missed payments, totaling over $5,000 plus late fees. Dad had never mentioned that they were behind on the mortgage. I realized that the problem started after Leora's gallery failed, which had stretched their budget to the breaking point. I forwarded the notice to my personal email without replying, and I blocked access to the store's accounting software from my laptop. By the end of the first week, the store lost its annual contract with the Santa Fe Public Schools art program. The district buyer called me directly because I had always handled the orders and invoices. He explained that without updated purchase orders and proof of inventory, they could not continue the contract for the spring semester. The deal was worth $12,000 in art supplies, watercolor sets, brushes, easels. Dad left a voicemail blaming supply chain issues, but the real problem was that the unpaid vendor bills were stacking up on his desk. Meanwhile, Leora's Instagram influencer deals began to disappear. Her last post for a small boutique candle maker got fewer than 500 likes, and the brand canceled the next planned collaboration. With no income and rent due on her downtown loft, she packed her designer suitcases into her leased SUV and moved back into the basement. Mom sent me a text with a photo of Leora's old twin bed, made with fresh linens and a heart emoji. I left the message on read. The phone calls started that same afternoon and did not stop for weeks. I counted 47 calls in total, according to my call log. Dad's first voicemail was at 8:30 in the morning. "You think walking out fixes anything?" Get back here and straighten the books before we lose everything, he said, raising his voice. He slammed the receiver at the end. Mom called an hour later. Her voice was softer, but full of worry and guilt. My back is acting up again. I can't lift the heavy shipment boxes without you. Please call. Leora waited until evening to leave a message. Hey sis, things are tight, but I have an idea for a pop-up paint and sip night. I need $10,000 to secure the venue and supplies. You're good with numbers. I'll pay you back with interest once it takes off. I deleted her voice note and temporarily added her number to my block list. Kieran watched as the notifications piled up while we cooked pasta in his kitchen. He suggested changing my ringtone to silent, but I kept it on vibrate. The buzz against my thigh was like a little headache that wouldn't go away. Dad escalated to texting me screenshots of overdue bills, the empty register drawer, and other financial problems. Mom sent me links to articles about adult children abandoning aging parents. Leora tried Kieran's phone too, leaving a breezy message about family investments and saying I was overreacting. 3 weeks later, the store's main supplier put them on credit hold. No more shipments of Golden Artist colors or Frederick's canvases would arrive until the $9,000 balance was cleared. Dad called the bank to try and get a short-term loan, but he was denied because his credit score had dropped below 600 after the gallery failed. He left another voicemail, quieter this time. The lights stay on because of your spreadsheets. Come fix this. Mom scheduled a doctor's appointment for her back and sent me a text with the confirmation. She had degenerative disc disease, which could be managed with physical therapy, but she couldn't afford the co-pays without insurance. Leora posted a story from the basement, wearing paint-stained overalls with the caption "Back to Basics." Old high school friends asked in the comments if the store was hiring. I spent my evenings with Kieran, going over my own finances. My emergency fund was safe. My hotel projects were still on track. My quietness spoke louder than any argument could. A month into my silence, Maris Wren showed up without warning. She flew in from Tucson on a red-eye Southwest flight. She had her car keys in hand when she knocked on my apartment door in the middle of the morning. Maris Wren, Mom's older sister by 5 years, carried a thick manila envelope with letters from the IRS. We sat at my kitchen table with coffee. She slid the documents across the wood grain without saying anything first. The notice explained that the gallery 3 years ago had left them owing $50,000. Dad had claimed business expenses that never actually happened, like framing materials, venue rentals, and marketing. The IRS had found differences between the money reported and the bank deposits, which triggered penalties plus interest. Maris Wren tapped the last page. They're drowning, she said. Mom had listed her as a secondary contact on old tax returns, which is why she received the notice. The mortgage was eating up 80% of the store's income. Without my monthly transfers, there were 2 payments from default. That afternoon, Dad called from the store landline for the first time in weeks. His voice cracked. Maris told us she's seeing you. We're not asking for money. Just come back for 1 month. Fix the books. Get us through tax season. The accountant we hired botched everything. Mom joined on speakerphone. Her breathing was heavy. Your aunt agrees it's temporary. We'll pay you consultant rates once cash flow stabilizes. Leora spoke from the background, suggesting I could work remotely a few hours a week. Their voices layered over one another, each trying to convince me. I listened until they ran out of words. Then I ended the call with a simple no. Kieran watched silently until the line went dead. That evening, I drafted an email from my professional account. The subject line read, "Formal notice of financial separation." I sent a message to my dad, my mom, and the store's main email. In the message, I told them that I was stopping all money support. I also said that they could no longer use the shared accounts, and I did not want to hear from them about business things anymore. I attached a PDF from the bank to show proof, so they would know I was serious. Then I hit send and felt a little nervous, but mostly relieved. After that, Leora tried calling Kieran. She left a voicemail about a new idea. She wanted to work together to make an online class to teach watercolor painting. We listened to the voicemail together while eating takeout burritos. It was fun, but also a little awkward because Kieran didn't answer. After listening, Leora deleted the voicemail since there was no reply, and we both shrugged. Maris Wren came to our house for dinner that evening. She told stories about how Mom had tried selling her crafts at fairs back in the 1980s. Mom hadn't done very well then, and the patterns in Maris Wren's stories sounded exactly like the patterns I had seen recently. I realized that some things never really changed. Before leaving for her hotel, Maris Wren gave me a big, warm hug. She whispered, "You are not the family ATM. They will figure it out or they won't. You don't have to fix everything." I felt comforted. I walked her to the elevator holding an envelope like it was evidence for something important. The next morning, I changed my phone plan and got a new number. The new number would only forward calls from work contacts. That way, I could avoid any family calls or messages. My dad sent one last text before the phone change. It was a picture of an empty drawer where invoices used to be, and he wrote, "This is on you." I blocked the thread and turned off the old SIM card. After that, a sense of peace slowly settled in. First, my phone stopped buzzing with notifications. Then, my mind finally had space to focus on my work and the hotel deadlines that were coming up. It felt good to have that mental space. 6 months passed quickly, and I barely noticed the days flying by. I closed on a 2-bedroom condo downtown. It was only 3 blocks from the historic plaza. The ceilings were very high and made of adobe, and there was a corner fireplace. My favorite part was the balcony, which gave a beautiful view of the Sangre de Cristo Mountains. The condo cost $425,000, which was within my new budget, and I felt proud to finally have a place of my own. After that, my firm got a very big and important job. We were hired to redesign a 5-star hotel called El Monte Sagrad. It had 40 guest suites, and the work required very special items like hand-woven Zapotec rugs, reclaimed pinionwood beams, and custom sinks with turquoise inlays. This project was huge, and it made my yearly salary go from $92,000 to $129,000. I could also earn even more if I reached performance goals and earned special certifications. It was exciting and a little stressful, but I loved the work. Kieran helped me move the last box into my new condo. After we finished, he did something I will never forget. He knelt on the bare oak floor and gave me a ring he had designed himself. It was made of white gold and had a turquoise stone from New Mexico. I felt overwhelmed with happiness and love. Meanwhile, my parents sold the art supply store. A regional franchise from Albuquerque bought it. They paid 60 cents for every dollar of inventory, which was not a lot, but enough to pay off the taxes. After all the fees, my parents had $4,300 left. They moved into a small 1-bedroom apartment near the railroad. It had 800 square feet, and the walls were thin, but the rent was only $1,050 per month. Dad, who was 62, took a night job with FedEx. He scanned and loaded packages from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. He earned $21.50 per hour, and after 90 days he got health insurance. This was something the store had never offered him. Mom started setting up a small art stand every Saturday and Sunday on Canyon Road. She put a folding easel against the adobe wall and displayed her watercolor paintings. She painted adobe doorways in Chile restaurants. Tourists sometimes bought her art, and she could make $60 to $120 on good weekends. That was enough for groceries and sometimes to buy a prescription. She even tried texting me a photo of her first $50 sale, a sunset over the mountains, but the message didn't go through. Leora got a job at Hobby Lobby on Cerrillos Road. She started as a cashier, earning $13.25 an hour. After 2 months of perfect attendance, she was promoted to the framing section. There, she measured mats and assembled shadow boxes for sports memorabilia. She also got a 15% employee discount, which helped her buy supplies for her personal art projects. After work, she enrolled in one evening class at Santa Fe Community College and paid for it with her own money. She also posted videos on Instagram showing behind-the-scenes clips of her work, including mistakes and how she fixed them. Her followers grew to over 3,000. I cut off all the remaining connections to the family business. I deleted the family Dropbox, removed myself from the store's vendor portal, and changed my mailing address at the post office. I also sent a final certified letter on my firm's letterhead. I wrote that love isn't just giving without getting anything back. I wished them growth, but from a distance. Mom signed the green card 3 days later, and I filed it and never looked back. Kieran and I hosted a housewarming party on our new balcony. We hung string lights, cooked green chili stew, and drank sparkling juice with colleagues from the hotel. My portfolio now included commercial lobbies in Albuquerque and a boutique hotel in Denver. I could travel for work instead of rushing to family emergencies. I planned trips to Santa Barbara in the spring and Portugal in the winter. The mental energy I used to spend on invoices and family stress now went into mood boards, material samples, and creative planning. Some doors closed, but new doors opened. I didn't abandon my family. I just stopped paying for their mistakes. Dad learned how to be on time while working under bright warehouse lights. Mom learned the value of her own paintings. Leora learned to do her work carefully, one step at a time. The lessons they learned from consequences were stronger than any lessons they could have learned from being spoiled. Life felt peaceful. My work grew, our home felt safe, and I had room to focus on my own growth and happiness. I could see clearly how hard work, boundaries, and personal responsibility were making a difference in all of our lives. I realized that love sometimes means stepping back, letting others figure things out, and taking care of yourself too.